Hey guys, so I really hope you enjoyed my cover of Gasoline by I Prevail. If my How to Play series where I break down these songs really helps you in your own playing and you found that you've learned several songs using these videos, I have a Patreon link and a merch link in the description below. As of yesterday, I dropped some new merch, and for all of my gold tier patrons and up until Monday, there is a promo code on our news feed as well as in the Discord server that will get you guys 50% off all the merch on my merch store. So my Patreon link, merch link, description below. Now, with all that said, let's get to learning Gasoline by I Prevail. This song is in 4/4 throughout the entire track, and it's played at the tempo, the BPM, of 135. There is one tempo change. It's a 5 BPM jump from 135 to 140 in the bridge section of this song, in the breakdown right before the outro. So when we get to it, we'll talk about that. But outside of that 5 BPM jump, there is no tempo changes throughout the rest of the track. The rest of it's just at 135. Now, with all that being said, something I want to mention here for sure real quick is that for the longest time with this series, I did my best to break down these songs for you guys as accurately and as close to how the drummer from the band performed it on the recording as possible. The only times there was real variations was when I didn't have a piece to replicate that sound. So an example would be if I don't own a stack. So if I don't have a stack, maybe I used a hi-hat or a china or a splash cymbal instead to supplement that sound, and like same with the tom formation. So if the drummer's using 2 floor toms, then obviously I would just keep it to a rack tom and a floor tom instead of a rack tom and 2 floors. That kind of stuff. With that being said, especially in these last couple tracks, I've found myself like really pushing my interpretations of these songs, trying to sort of not overcomplicate them, but complicate them in a way that still holds true to what the drums were, but kind of adds my own flair. The reason why I mention all this is just because I really did that with this track especially. There's a lot that I added that isn't in the actual recording, so this lesson will be me teaching my version. It's not it's not too much more work than the original, but definitely some changes. So if you're learning this because you need it absolutely note for note, then this isn't perfectly note for note. You'll have to sort of reference the song, and I apologize to you. But if you enjoyed my cover and you want to learn how to play it like I did, then this will be perfect for you. So with all that being said, let's get into it. The first section we're going to talk about is of course the intro. So here's the intro performed for you now. After the intro, we're going to come to verse 1. This song follows a very simple structure, but it's still like, it wasn't entirely clear to me what you would, I guess, label these sections. So if you disagree with how I'm labeling them, the only reason why I ever label them for these videos is just to give you guys like a name to title it as. If you're sort of like, you know, if you need to come back to the video and you need to skip to a certain part, then you know that you left off in that section that I called verse 2 or whatever it is. So yeah, we're going to go with this next part as verse 1 and pre-chorus 1. I grouped it all together because it's very simple. It's a longer section because of the grouping, but yeah, it's very simple to learn. The verse is just going to be this sort of hi-hat pattern where you slowly open the hi-hat. I split it over the center line. So the first part where you're on hi-hat until you stop the hi-hat portion is 4 bars, I believe. Yeah, so it's 4 bars. So I would do the first 2 bars with like strictly closed hats, and then as of the center line, I'm trying to time it after that center line, that on the center line, I start to open it very slowly with my left foot. And as I'm opening it, I want to time it so that when I get to the end of the second 2 bars, the second half, when I I get to the very end, that's when the hi-hat is completely open. I want it to be a very straight linear ramp. That's at least how I played it for this song. So just focus on, once you start to open it, make sure you're slowly releasing it until you get to the top where you can take your foot off and it's completely open for like the very last stroke, or the very, one or two last strokes before you transition into the next little part. And then the amount in which you increase the velocity, that ramp, you're going to apply that, but half the distance, half the time for the sections after the first section, for section 2 and 3, after the little like snare, kick, kick, tom, kick, kick, snare, kick, kick, and then back into hats. So when you come back into the hats after that little fill thing, that's when you're going to reduce the amount from the first hi-hat roll by half. So instead of 4, it'll be like 2-ish, and same thing. So after the first bar, you start to open it and open it gradually until you get to the top of the ramp, and then it should be full open. That's at least how I handled the velocities for this section, and that's how I'm gonna perform it here for you. So yeah, here we go with verse 1 and the pre-chorus of the song now. Coming out of the pre-chorus, we're gonna go into the chorus. I definitely added some accents, some things here and there. There's one section, or there's one part rather, where I put my right hand on the china and my left hand on the snare, and then I go, so like kick, 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 and then up to another crash. That kind of stuff was me adding my own flair to it. So yeah, the chorus is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, here's chorus 1 for you now. Coming out of chorus 1, we're gonna keep it super simple, super straightforward. We're just gonna go into the intro again as the post-chorus. And I think, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much the exact same thing as you already played. Of course, I'll play it here for you again because, I like to keep these videos linear so you can watch it all the way through and have the song learned. So here's post-chorus 1, performed for you now. All right, as we roll right along, A, B, super straightforward, super easy. We're gonna come to verse 2 and I guess pre-chorus 2 now. So in verse 2, it's the same as verse 1, except the transition out, there's a little bit of a fill that takes us into the pre-chorus part that'll bring us into the chorus, and that pre-chorus is where things get a little bit tricky, a little bit technical. I completely rewrote that tom part that you're gonna hear me play. I refer to sections like these as jungle beats. It just kind of it feels very like jungle beat, like I'm across the toms and the, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like Disturbed does stuff like that all the time. I've always just referred to it as like a jungle beat, and we kind of see stuff like this a lot in like pop punk. That's what I refer to it as. That's what it is. It's very linear, the version that I wrote. Pay attention to it here. If you don't get it here, if you're struggling with it and you still can't really, you don't really understand what's going on, even with the slower tempo or whatever it is, don't worry though. Next week, early next week, I will be releasing episode 3 of What the Fill, and I'm going to, and part of that episode, the second half of that episode is going to take us through in transcription form. I'm going to take you through to that jungle beat, and we'll build it on layers. We'll do 4 different BPMs kind of thing. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you know when that episode drops, and I will be taking you through that jungle beat next week. So with all that being said, here we go with verse 2 and pre-chorus 2 now. All right, so now we're into chorus 2. Chorus 2 is exactly the same as chorus 1, except for one thing. Instead of ending with a snare roll, we're gonna half that snare roll, half the duration of it, and we're gonna put the strokes on our feet. We're gonna go, so kick, 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 snare, kick, 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 snare, or no, that's too many times. Kick, 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 snare, kick, 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 and then into the snare roll. So that's pretty much it though. That's like the only change. It's just the way you come out of that section, and it's super straightforward. Nothing crazy going on there. So here's chorus 2, performed for you now. Okay, now that we're done chorus 2, directly like on the downbeat after chorus 2, we start the bridge. And this hi-hat pattern, I overcomplicated again. This is another example of me taking it a bit farther just to add my own style to it. I am playing a 16th, let me think, I'm playing a 16th note tuplet. So you can count it as if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, it'd be triplet, 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 triplet. But you wanna play the triplets instead of accenting like all you're gonna do is go one, triplet, 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 trip. So it's just groups of 6 with accents coming on the right hand on every downbeat. That's all it is. Nothing crazy there. It might take some time to get up to speed if you want to play it like that. If you don't want to go with my interpretation, you can just listen to the track and you will uncover that it is it's just straight 16ths, kind of similar to what we saw throughout the verses. Also, I did change up the transition out of it a little bit. Like I added an extra kick so I could go like open hi-hat, kick, snare, like flam, and then into the breakdown. Yeah, that was just me, same thing. I wanted to make the tuplets work, and that's how I sort of found the best way to make the tuplets work on the hi-hat to transition us into the next part, which is the breakdown, which is the second half of the bridge. The second half of the bridge is super straightforward. It's all single kick. There's nothing extravagant going on. The center line changes over itself with the exact same change as it takes us out. So yeah, I think it's just the same thing repeated twice. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. So here we go. The bridge, half one, half two, the tuplets, and the breakdown perform for you now. I totally forgot to mention that part that we were just in. So on the downbeat, on the start of the tuplet pattern on the hi-hat, that's the start of the transition. So it's gonna go from like, the chorus is 135, we're talking tempo here, the chorus is 135, and then as soon as the hi-hat starts on that downbeat, that's when it tempo changes up to 140. So we have an increase there, and it'll stay 140 until the end of the section that I just performed for you. So that's where that one tempo change was. Most of you, that's probably not gonna matter for a whole lot, because I imagine that you're just sort of playing along to this at home to become a better drummer. But for those of you that wanna cover this, for those of you that are interested in dropping this into a DAW, lining everything up and sort of using it in some production value, then that's the point where it changes. It changes right on that, and then the downbeat of the cymbal mute. So at the end of it, you saw me grab my china. The downbeat that hits right after that, that's where it changes back to 135, and there's a bit of a rest until it hits with the a version of the intro that we're about to talk about. So that's what we're gonna go into next, which is the outro. And essentially it's just the intro with a rest, like a rested part. The first half of the first phrase is all rested, and then we come back in with a bit of a variation on what was played the original time. There's less going on for sure. And then yeah, that pretty much takes us out. So that after that, that's the song. You get the outro as a variation on the intro, and that's like the only change that we've really seen. Like most of the parts are just repeated with very, very subtle changes. So here we go with the outro, back at 135, perform for you now. All right, so congratulations on learning Gasoline by I Prevail. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson video. I hope you enjoyed learning sort of my interpretation of the song. It definitely was, the parts that I changed were certainly a variation on what's being played in the actual track, so I hope you enjoyed that. You can stay tuned for the What the Fill episode 3 that was gonna break down that linear jungle beat that we're gonna tackle next week. So that'll be out next week. And outside of that, if you enjoy these videos, as I said at the beginning, please consider supporting the channel through Patreon or the merch store. With all of that being said, if you wanna connect with me further outside of those platforms, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The links are on the screen for you now, as well as in the description below. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and I will see you all very, very soon with something new.